Welcome to Galactic Grandmother Heart to Heart. My special guest today is Jemaa Sonciré. Jemaa is a super psychic. She works with Laura Eisenhower doing readings. She's an Akashic librarian. She's an energy worker, a timeline activator, and an herbalist. So check out her website because she's got some good quality products that she makes herself. And today we have a very interesting program about our galactic families and dragons, among other things. So welcome so much, Jemaa. Thank you for being on again.
Yay. Thank you, Galactic Grandmother. I love that. Yeah, so happy to be here again because I love all these conversations that we have and what we haven't been taught
Right,
about
right.
the other dimensional spaces, about other beings in those spaces. We talked about Bigfoot on the last one. Yeah. And this isn't just, there's so many of us that have had personal experiences, which I'll share throughout our interview. I know thousands of you out there have had these personal experiences with UFOs, interdimensional beings, dragons, fairies, so it is real.
Yes,
Yeah, the
yes.
ley lines and the dragons they've shown were the guardians of the ley lines, just like the Sasquatch or the guardians of the trees.
Mm-hmm.
So when they've shown me, because I've had dragons with me, feels like I've always been connected to them or have had the memory of being connected with them. But yeah, so they have always been the protectors. But then when it got out of balance and the dark took over and we became in this false matrix, they got captured, the ley lines got ruined, they got destroyed. And so we're rebalancing that. So that's why it's exciting. 5 years ago in the beginning of this pandemic, and I just always work with my dragons, but they're, well, dragons can be captured. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I started just I was living on Kauai, tuning in with dragons there. So there were dragons captured at that time, but I'm feeling now there aren't any more captured dragons. But I was tuning in with any captured dragons on Kauai. So I was just working with them there. And I did find one. There were several, but one I was, okay, I'm going to release you. And it said, no, I cannot be released right now, or it'll upset the process that is happening here with taking out the dark and rebalancing Mother Earth back to our original timeline frequency.
Experience as a psychic, as being a child that loved the woods, you loved going
Mhm.
out and being by yourself in nature, and you connected with a lot of interdimensional beings. Would you like to speak about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was so in the present moment. So I just was living in that higher our original frequency. So I could feel the love in that timeline. I always felt so much love around me. I never saw anything physical, but I do have a little story where I was like, whoa, this reality isn't really what we think it is. I
Mhm.
think I was only about 8 years old. I was in our living room and my mom was, and it was a small house, and she was in the kitchen, which was one room over. And I was sitting in a chair and I was looking at this painting. And I must have gone into a different frequency or different dimensional space, but I was in the house. But for some reason, I just decided to zone out on this picture. And it was like a painting, and it was green hedges. And then in front of those hedges looked like something in an England garden, with the water fountain. And I was just staring at it. And all of a sudden, the gardener came out from around the hedge wearing like white and with a hat on and started trimming the hedges. I was like, oh my God. And I'm only 8, so I wasn't smoking or anything like that. So I was like, whoa. And I was just so excited. Wow, this isn't really what we think we're living in. And then my mom walked in, and boom, I was back into the timeline of just
Mhm.
nothing like that. They showed me a glimpse back at that age, at 8 years old. So I always think about that. Okay, to remind me that there's more and to stay open and connected and keep that spiritual connection. And I had a horse too. That was my best friend. When I was like, I rode her everywhere. Looking back, I never saw physically fairies or Bigfoot or, and which I still don't, only that one time when I was 16 but I feel them in my heart and I can see when I'm really tuning in my third eye.
Do you have any family history of ET contact or abductions or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'll rewind back before I was born. So I was born in a little town called Davenport, north of Santa Cruz, kind of a beach town. So I wasn't born yet. So my dad and mom moved there probably in 1970. My dad he was a surfer. They were like hippie gardeners. And so my mom had goats and garden and all of that. And he would go surf and come back. And so it was midday. And so he laid down to take a little nap after surf sesh. And then right before falling asleep, he said a being came into the room and said, "Hey, can we ask you some questions?" And my dad, he's pretty spiritual and open to that kind of stuff. So he was like, "Sure." So uh, instantly he was on a spaceship, and this is what he has said. So he was on a spaceship and he just remembers them just asking him so many questions. Finally he was like, "I think I'm done here, guys." Boom, he was like back in his bed, and he woke up 8 hours later. Like, it was a nap in the afternoon. He got up and it was 4 a.m. So that was the first contact with my family. I feel like I probably was on that spaceship, probably downloading, because I've tuned in with this. So I feel like I was making sure I was making the right choice, that he was going to be my father, probably. So I was asking questions, giving him downloads, doing DNA stuff as well. And that was a friendly encounter. Then he also had a second encounter on a hike. He saw it physically, broad daylight. So he was out on a hike with a friend and his dog. I know where it's at, and it always creeped me out to go any further because I used to run a lot in the town that I was born in. I was like 18, 19. So I wouldn't go back as far as he did. And you're not supposed to either. There's signs that say, feel like there's probably activity underground as well.
Yeah.
So, I know there is, just by going into my meditations and reading the energy there. So they went around the corner and there was like a spaceship just hovering, and it started communicating with them telepathically. And my dad, he said it started saying, "Oh, it's okay. You can come closer. Hey, come closer." And my dad was, "This is not okay." So his friend was out of there already. So was the dog. and so
That's
and
a
so my
clue
dad's like,
right there.
"Yeah, that's totally." So my dad's, "Yeah, I think I'm good." He's like, "No, you need to stay out of my space." And then he turned around and booked it back home. And so fast forward to my experience, I grew up in this beautiful, magical place. And then my actual experience with a UFO, my own, one and only, and they weren't good either, was out on the cliffs in Davenport. And so I was 18 or 19, and I was out on a date. And so we were walking out, and I kind of joked with him to see where he was at. I was like, "Oh, there's UFOs out here." He's like, "No, there's not. Be quiet." That wasn't funny at all. So we're out there just sitting, and it was so beautiful, the moon, and I'm looking this way, and then I look back over at him, and I see him looking at this light that's moving towards us. And I was, "What is that?" He's like, "I don't know. I'm telling it to get the heck away from us." I mean, he used the F word. This is the part where I was like, "Okay, this is real." Because as I was looking at the light, I literally felt like like they were going to pull my consciousness out of my body. But I could feel this weird, from this little light. I felt like I'm going to get totally pulled out if I continue to stare at this light. So I had to, "No, we do not consent to whatever is going on here." And it stopped. And it was just a little light. So it wasn't your typical UFO lights and all that. And it stopped, and then it turned, and then it went slowly back up into the mountains away from the ocean where it first came. And then it turned and went that way. So never saw that guy again. so, so that was that physical experience. And I think I've had these just one time physical, like with Sasquatch at 16, with the UFO, to let me know, my guides were letting me know that, hey, there really is other things beyond what we've been taught in this false matrix that we've been in.
Right.
Yeah.
My family history is no abductions, but my mother always believed we couldn't possibly be the only ones on Earth here in this
Mm.
universe. And she and my dad, they used to go out on the sand dunes with a group of people in well, they called them dune buggies in those days. And they
Oh
were
yeah.
on a night run and they saw a light coming towards them. It's pitch black out there except for the headlights. So they stopped on the dune and she said it was a spaceship with a line of windows
Mm.
around the top. And she said she saw, I forget, two or three shapes of people. And she kept jumping up out of her seat, waving, yelling, hi, hi. And my dad would grab her by the clothes and pull her back down. And she kept jumping up and waving. And she said, finally,
Oh,
one of the figures in the ship raised a hand and just waved at her. And she always knew that that was an off-world vehicle of some sort. So she had
I
that
love it.
experience. We used to live in the high desert where it's beautiful desert skies at night.
Oh yeah.
And my son and my nephew, they were out lying down on a beautiful summer night in the back of this trailer or something, just looking at the stars. And they said that this light came right over the top of them and stopped. And it scared them so much. They said it was low too.
Oh,
I was in the house and all we knew is that these two teenage boys came busting through the door saying, oh my God, a UFO almost got us. But
wow.
one more
Wow.
experience that I personally had when I was 21, I was
Yeah.
down in Mexico camping, laying on the beach at night, looking up at the stars, and I saw one of the stars go zigging across the sky and stop. And I
Oh, I
said to
love
my
that.
boyfriend at the time, do you see that? And he goes, yeah. And then it went straight down and then it zigged a little bit more and stopped. And by this time, we're going, oh my gosh, what is that? And then it just took off in a diagonal just as fast as you can
Wow.
and disappeared. I knew that
Wow.
had to be a UFO.
For sure. Oh, absolutely.
I think most people either have had some experience or know someone
Hmm.
has had some kind of an experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yet we're
I
taught
think so.
not to pay attention to it. Oh no, that's our eyes
Right.
probably fooling us.
Oh, I know, because that's the brainwashing into this matrix, but that's what oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're a conspiracy theory. Even though thousands of people have had experiences with UFOs, yeah, we're just trained to go, oh no, because it's the social, we don't want to be outcasts or be the different one. All your audience here and mine too are they know something hasn't been quite right
And and
in
it's
here.
time. It's time for us to start talking about these things that
Yeah,
they're really part of our true, I would call it our true spiritual nature, that there's
totally.
so much more. There's more to what we are
Yeah,
than we're aware of right here.
for sure. That's with consciousness.
Right.
So that's what we are. We're energy and consciousness, and we're just in these like Avatar, that movie. It kind of like that. So there's a lot of that disclosure in all our movies and TV shows, and to show us that there is something's beyond this kind of 3D space. And that's what my guides had told me, or my galactic family. So I have that a mothership up there, and so the guidance that they've been giving me my whole life has been that, telling me to watch shows and movies, and then they would say, now take note because this is real. And I didn't know what they meant. I'm like, okay, tune in and go. I mean, there were certain ones that would scare me, the ones that would be the Twilight Zone where the realities weren't real. I'm like, no, I'm not ready for that. So I feel like they totally were preparing me right at the beginning of the pandemic.
That's when I really first started, like so many millions of other people, we started tuning into YouTube to see what was new on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I found Super Soldier Talk. And I
Yeah.
really knew nothing about the whole secret space program, super
Hmm.
soldiers. their experiences. Since then, I now have a dear friend that went through the Montauk Project. Do you have any information about the so-called good galactics, bad galactics, how they've been in conflict trying to either
Mhm.
help us or keep us down?
Well, I feel like there has been a full shift in that, and that does feel real because there has been light and dark. And that feels very real to me when I've tuned in with the super soldier. And that's I found his channel in the beginning too. It really felt familiar. I totally am aware of, I don't think I was a super soldier, but I feel like I was in that dimensional space aware of all of that. That goes to that consciousness that I felt like getting pulled out of your body when I had that experience when I was 18. So that's the interdimensional going on. And so that's what my guides have shown me too, is so they know how to play in those other interdimensional spaces and to control what they want. And really, it's control. They want that this is, I'm talking about the dark, want to be in control of everything. And enslave us. That feels very real.
There's polarity here
Yeah,
and in with our galactic brothers and sisters. There's
right.
the
Yeah,
ones that are more positive oriented, the ones that are geared towards more negative, controlling,
right.
manipulative.
Yeah.
And I believe that there's probably conflict there because
Hmm.
the good that are interested in humanity's well-being are standing up for us, helping us out as much as they can within
Yeah.
universal
Yes.
laws.
For sure. And that's what they just reminded me just now. I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. It's timelines. So they created all these false negative time loops. And one of them is the secret space program. And it is destruction, it is war. And we've been getting pulled into that because we can get consciousness pulled into a false timeline, into that false matrix,
Yeah.
and do the bidding for all their dark crap. But this is the time where we're awake now going, no, we're not going to participate in that time. We're not going to get pulled into the false timeline because it's frequency. So we're getting pulled into that. And so we got to all go, no, I'm not participating in that. I do not agree or I do not consent. And to stand in the light and the good and connected to God's source, creator, or higher self, and hold that frequency of the original timeline. That's what my guides have shown me for many, many years now. And so our consciousness needs to stay there, but we've been so programmed with everything that they've done to us, pulling us out of our timeline, which was like we have those memories of Lemuria and when the fall happened, like I do, and then that's when the distortion came. That's when they were able to take it out of balance and then create lots of destructive, dark, false timelines. And so that's why we're so fatigued. We're all of us are like we're so tired because we're working at collapsing these false timelines. And that's through our personal experiences of trauma. That's why the inner work is so important right now, is so we can collapse those. So if we're reliving a trauma that happened to us at 4, then it actually is still happening. So we have to bring light to it, love it, and collapse it. And same with our past lives. And then it becomes our original timeline again. And it's inevitable. This is for sure. That's what they've said too. Like they knew they had a certain amount of time to keep looping us and keep playing, but they knew that this was inevitable for us all finally have enough consciousness to merge and be on our original state of just home. You know, that feeling of home. And
Oh,
because we
yeah.
use the word so much of, oh, it's just that love feeling or that, which it is, joy, but it's actually just the sense of being home that we've yearned for. I know I'm not the only one that mid-teens, I'm hearing everybody's had that experience, 16, 17ers. I would look up and be like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't know what I signed up for, but I'm done. And I didn't even know about any of this back then. I was just trying to be a regular teenager. I don't know. I don't want to do this anymore. But then, nope, keep going.
I think that the timelines, those negative timelines from the secret
Yeah,
space program, can be escaped because there's so many whistleblowers now that have
for
come
sure.
forth that are talking about their experiences that have been in the process of healing themselves And now their intention is to turn around and help other survivors of the mind
Totally.
control programs and
Yeah.
space programs. And I think just that intention to be of service and to help your fellow man brings you into a
Hmm.
higher timeline, a higher frequency that can't
Totally.
be touched.
That's absolutely 100%. And that's it. They're like, oh, okay, we got this. We healed and understood what was going on, and now they can help others. That's why we all have our part. So that's their mission. This is about waking up consciousness that have been so hijacked and enslaved in the false matrix and different timelines. So it's beautiful to see.
It is.
It's really exciting to see, even though it's freaking hard as heck. I mean, this is not an easy ride
Oh, no,
right now.
no.
Like, yeah.
People that have signed up to experience that so they can turn around and help others. That's truly amazing.
Yeah. So you have the secret space program, you have the Kathy O'Brien's human trafficking. Gosh, yeah. So you have all of that. They're the frontline warriors
Right.
for humanity because they got in there and knew they were going to be transmuting dark from within. Whew.
And everyone does their part. We're all raising the
Mhm.
consciousness
Yeah,
in our
for
own
sure.
ways. And that's why it's so
That's
important
right.
for everyone watching to,
Yeah,
whether you feel like you have some kind of big mission or not, just being the best person you can be, being loving
that's it.
and kind. That's good right there.
That is it right there. That's the message. Do I have any messages from my galactic family? And that's it. You just said it. It's they're holding tremendous space for us to just be in our heart space. And it doesn't matter. We don't have to, because that's the old program too of thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I got to accomplish that. And really, it's trust, being in the heart space. And we don't need to know an outcome either. We just trust that it's going to be in the highest and best way. You just keep that feeling of home in your heart. So they just are holding so much love and space for us to do that. But that was their message. Just you can just, even if you're a hermit but you're grounding in where you're at, work with your ley lines, crystals, sage, cedar. Burning cedar is really good too. And just ground in your light. And that's it.
Yeah.
Unless you feel like you have a big mission and you want to figure it out, get a session with April. She's amazing.
Oh,
So I
and
just had one with
Jemaa.
her. Yeah. And figure it out. So you are on your highest timeline with whatever that is. And really, it's following your passion, following what feels good
Right.
in that. What is your drive? And that's not always super easy and rainbows and unicorn. It's work. I love what I'm doing. Like you were mentioning, the healing products that I'm making. They're amazing. I love working with the herbs, but it is work. But you feel that drive from within. And that's what's really important.
I've always told my children when you feel really excited about something, that is a clue. That's your soul, higher consciousness dropping that excitement in to try
Right.
and kind of nudge you in a certain direction.
Yes. Yeah. And that's really important to listen to because we've actually been programmed to think negative thoughts about ourselves and actually keep ourselves in a certain energy frequency of discomfort. So I see this in sessions that I do, and it's challenging to move into these higher frequencies of feeling like at home. And because we're so used to a more negative loop, and it's hard to break free from those, from familiarity. So that's why it's so important that we teach our kids to really be in tune with that and follow that. Yeah.
And be with people that make you laugh. Laughter and fun
Yeah.
are just the highest vibrations. And you may have noticed that when Jemaa and I get together, we're cracking each other up.
No. We have to have a sense of humor because you know what? The dark hates when we laugh.
Well, they do. I don't.
Oh yeah.
I've always been a
Uh,
jokester. That's how I
yeah,
relate
good.
to
Me
people.
too. Always. Yeah, yeah.
I just saw a video last night, and this
Okay.
young woman was speaking about the fact that she has a relationship with a reptilian who is
Mm.
an earth. She distinguished that he was an earth reptilian, that
Hmm.
Earth reptilians are slightly more advanced than we are,
Mm-hmm.
not as advanced as some off-world reptilians. And she said, just like you,
Mm-hmm.
there's many different kinds, good, bad. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
wondering, it made me wonder, are you aware of other kinds of extraterrestrials or galactics that are inner Earth interdimensional beings living here on or in the planet with us?
Yeah, I have several experiences with that. And my first one was back my 20s, and I lived with a boyfriend in San Francisco. And I was 22 to 25. I was with him for about 3 years. So that was my experimental days of doing drugs. I don't now, but not harsh. Never done acid or any kind of super altering. So
Yeah.
did eat ecstasy or mushrooms on a very mild, so because I could do those. So, but someone must have spiked the ecstasy. And San Francisco, that there's thin veils there. There's definitely dark. So I would see these two different worlds sober. But anyway, so we're at this club and someone must have spiked the ecstasy. And luckily, I don't get scared with this kind of stuff, even back then. So I started, everyone in the club started morphing into reptiles. Now, I've never seen reptilian. And I never dove deep into the UFOs, even though I had that experience when I was 18. They all started morphing, and I'm, holy, do you see what I'm seeing? I look at my boyfriend, he's what? I'm like, everyone's turning into reptiles. And I just tripped out. And some of them were really goofy, and they would morph and then they'd go back into their human shape. And then they would morph, and some of them were nice and goofy. Some of them were dark as shit, like, excuse my French. And I'm like, ooh, that one's bad. And the whole place was filled with them. So that was pretty sure my guides letting me know that there was other beings. So I got to see there are other beings here. So fast forward to Kauai, and I was meditating and I was going in to see if I needed to release any dragons. There was definitely a battle going on. But when I did that, a Draco,
Uh-huh.
one of the big Dracos, showed up and was just observing me talking with the dragon. I was a little surprised because I was like, oh, you're not supposed to be here. But I was like, I didn't feel any dark coming, and just observing in just this very neutral way. And I was like, I don't think you're supposed to be here. I'm pretty uncomfortable with you being here, but I'm like, you need to leave, actually. It's so it left, it like went into another dimensional space. And then I was going, who was that? And then I remembered I had a really bad fever when I was probably 6. And I remember hallucinating, but I remember this being coming by the bed and just observing. And it was the same Draco. So I feel like and it's a female. So I feel like she watches over me. I just know that she's there, and she's in a different dimensional space than my galactic family. And I don't know the different dimensional spaces. I just see them as different dimensional spaces. So that was that experience. And I also had an experience on Kauai because there's a lot of military activity there, underground bases, with 2 clones that were on a trail. And I just knew they weren't human. I was walking, my son was a little ahead of me, and they were running down a hill and they were listening to the oddest music, this weird trance music. And but they were in sync. It was a male and female, and they were just looked perfect. And they both looked over at me, and I was like, oh my God, this is probably about 10 years ago. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't know there was clones. I just knew that they weren't human. But now putting it all together with the information that other people, are coming out with. And then just my own gift of being able to read energy. I can see if people that are in human form aren't from here. Some are really, it's like they come here to visit or something. And so I saw that a lot too. Whoa, these people are not from here. They're seriously from a whole nother galaxy planet.
Another level of tourist.
And it is another level of tourists. If you practice, you can start seeing things and trusting what's coming into your third eye and what's going on with the other beings, like your galactic family, Sasquatch, like we talked about, dragons, because I feel like it is all real to me. That's why I honor everybody's timeline too. So for somebody else, that might not be real for them, and they're on their own path and journey.
And do you know who your galactic family is?
Yeah, the Pleiades. I haven't really studied the different names of but I definitely resonate with the Pleiades and that star frequency. I definitely was a dragon as well. Like we talked about dragons, so I know that I actually was a dragon way, 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 way back.
You mentioned ley lines. Now, do you know
Hmm.
how the dragons were working on the behalf of Mother Earth's ley lines?
Yeah, they were like guardians of these ley lines, is what my guides have showed me. And when everything was in sync, when everything was in harmony with each other, they were the guardians of these ley lines and just to keep them from getting destroyed and keep them clear. And then when the fall came, that's what got captured. The ley lines got destroyed. But I know we would live in harmony here. Like when I remember the lifetime in Lemuria before it got invaded, we didn't have such a solid body, more etheric. And that's where we could just manifest things easier, but still have an experience.
Uh-huh.
Also, I just know that we enjoyed coming to Mother Earth because she's a living being as well.
I believe that the ley lines are in the process of, let me see here. I'm hearing like 70% being reconstructed in a higher consciousness level. What
Mhm.
do you have any input on that, on the new ley lines for Mother Earth?
They feel amazing. So I have scanned this whole Mother Earth and where the ley lines are. And I just only see a few. Yeah, it is. And 70% sounds about right. There's pockets of old looping, those old false timelines, all, and that's where the consciousness hasn't been uplifted yet or pulled out of that loop.
That's important for people to understand that no matter where you are around the globe, if you're a
Hmm.
good-hearted person that might be classified as a light worker, so to speak, you're planted
Right.
where you are on Mother Earth for a reason. You're actually anchoring
Right.
higher source consciousness energy and
Hmm.
helping with the new ley lines.
Absolutely. I usually get shown that in sessions just because my guides want me to remind people that they are light workers. Their frequency, that's why it's so important again to do that inner work and clear and release and forgive so we can truly anchor in source frequency.
And it's funny, as you are anchoring in, you just feel so
Hmm.
much lighter and freer.
You are. So it's like when you feel that home frequency come in, it's like it's really empowering too. So when you get to that state, and it's daily, so it doesn't come easy for me either. I got to do meditation, I got to do positive affirmations, I got to ground, I got to, and get help too if I'm feeling off balance. So getting amazing sessions from you or other healers,
Mhm.
it's like we're here to help each other. That's why it's so really hard right now because the dark is panicking. So they are going to try to get in at full speed into our energy fields. They're freaking out. They've lost. They knew this was inevitable, but they're not going down without a fight. They can make it uncomfortable, but they can't take us out. Our soul is infinite. They can trick us and have our consciousness go into these false timelines or do bidding for their dark crap because we got tricked, but they can't ever destroy us. And that's the power that we have to remember.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have been hearing from different podcasts and different things on Facebook and YouTube and personal friends. A lot more people are having experiences or contacts with galactics,
Mm.
extraterrestrials. And the message seems to me that the true disclosure is going to happen more on a collective individual basis. They're not going to be landing on the White House lawn. They're going to be connecting with people that are in resonance and ready to
Right.
connect with. And especially if you have a desire to connect with them and you have a good heart and good intent.
Hmm.
I guess that's the plan for disclosure now is that they're going to just be contacting more individuals. Do you have any information about that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I totally resonate with that because that's what I've always been told is because that's in a timeline we don't want to be in. So
Mhm.
if they're coming into the timeline, it doesn't work that way. We're moving to our original timeline. That's what my guides have always, that's why we have to collapse the false timelines. And then it is an individual. They also showed me that those other beings also is our future selves because it's already happened. We've already done this. So they're guiding us to move onto that frequency, onto that timeline where we already are. So that's why I say on my galactic spaceship that my higher self is there, but that's my future self
Mhm.
guiding me. Hey, you got this, supporting. I got to ask for their help. Like you said, they'll just watch and they won't intervene, except for a few times. Once they did intervene.
Getting back to speaking of our higher, the beings that are
Oh,
us
yeah.
in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
I related to it because when my higher self, who's my main guide, teaching me about multidimensionality, I actually got to meet and was shown some of the higher versions of myself. I would call it along the soul stream. And
Yeah.
and her name's Tara.
Oh, I love it.
Tara lives and
Beautiful.
works aboard a ship.
Okay.
And she's
Oh,
actually an ambassador for Inner Earth
yeah.
for Telos.
Yep.
That's what my personal connection is between Telos and my higher aspect of myself,
Mm.
Terra. I was shown different aspects of myself in higher consciousness frequencies. And so I
Cool.
can relate to the fact that, yes, we
Mhm.
are being assisted by beings that seem foreign to us, but probably are versions of ourselves in a higher frequency.
Yeah, at least that's what they've told me. I am you in that other frequency that is home. That is where we will ultimately be. And then there are other beings on the galactic mothership. Same with yours. Yeah, that was beautiful. I totally can see Tara. Yeah. Yeah, because I'll see when I'm doing sessions too, I'll see people's councils. Everyone's higher self is their future self, and there are councils to help us, so everybody has their own personal counsel as well with your future self. That's why it's so important to really connect with them and just trust that message that's coming in too. Just trust it as long as it's positive.
Is there something that you feel that you'd like to speak about with the galactics that you've worked with, perhaps even in sessions for other people or your own galactics or a message from? Is there something that we haven't covered that we need to talk about?
I'll share my experience with the healer on my ship, on my mothership. And then I think everyone has access to their healer that can help them heal their own bodies. So I was going through menopause. And so it's kind of common, I guess, for women to get frozen shoulder. It's, or you just can't move your shoulder and it comes out of nowhere. They say it's possibly hormones. Couldn't move it for almost a year because I was determined to heal it myself, and I'd go into meditation, and then I'd take all the herbs, all the teas, salves, everything. And so I finally had it. So I went into a meditation and I was, healer on my ship needs to get down here right now. Whoever, get down here and you heal this shoulder now. This needs to be an instant heal. So I'm screaming and yelling at my higher self, the galactic team, and then send the healer down. So they did, or I did, my higher self. So this beautiful, and I've seen it in my third eye. So it's not something that was physical. So this being came doing my meditation in my bed, and this beautiful iridescent, a light blue, but there was rainbows shimmering through this being, just this high being. And when she showed up, this shift happened. It was so much love was getting poured through my body. Like it's just so, my heart, I was, oh my gosh, wow, thank you. You heard me. And then it's just waves of just so much love. And I felt this release, and my shoulder was healed. It was done. It was no more froze. They showed me that we have the ability to do that because she just helped me with my own consciousness hop onto another timeline, hop into the healing frequency of joy, of home, of love. And there is no ailments in that frequency, but we get dragged down into the other ones. So now that I know how it feels, so then I just bring that feeling in to heal anything in my own body. And we all have that ability. I know we all have a galactic mothership. We have guides. We have our future selves, our higher self guiding us. And we just have to ask for help every day, have them guide us in the right direction, give us the right messages. If we need to heal anything in our bodies, ask for the healer on your galactic mothership to come down and help you align into that frequency. Kind of like the med beds. That's just helping people get into a different frequency. But I feel we have the ability to do that without the med beds. Yeah. So we are the med bed, but we have to feel that what that frequency is. So you can even ask releasing traumas or anything like that. If you don't know where they are or even how to get into, just ask them to help clear whatever is not supposed to be in your energy field and keep it strong so you can be in your homeostasis self.
Everyone can do it, but unfortunately, we haven't all been educated on the techniques or how to do it.
Right.
So fortunately, you do have people like myself and Jemaa and others that can do clearings, energetic clearings, and get in and clear out the physical cells of low frequency energies. There's a lot of techniques available, a lot of people out there that can help.
Yeah, there are. So these energy techniques lift you up into your own original frequency of home in the heart. Okay.
Thank you so much, Jemaa. I have really enjoyed hearing about your experiences, and I hope that people can feel more comfortable now between both of us talking about this, that this is real. It's not pretend. It's not something that we should be ashamed to talk about. If we have experiences or odd things happen to us, let's be open about it.
Absolutely. Guys, share your experiences with us.
Yes.
In the comments. Yeah, I'd love to hear your stories and your experiences because more people than we know have had these experiences. And so thank you for having me on again.
You're welcome. And any topics that you would like us to talk about, please put that in the comments.
Yeah.
Because we still have a lot of things we can talk about.
Oh,
but we're always
endless.
open.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.